Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today we catch up with Kyle Bauer at the Commodity Classic in New Orleans, where he visits with Tyson Foods Dr. Daugherty and Carolyn O'Neil, reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Next, it's the weekly Kansas Soybean update, and then we're back in New Orleans with Kyle and Sara Wyant, president of AgriPulse Communications Incorporated. Then enjoy the weekly Kansas Farm Bureau legislative update, and we'll end with Kyle and Darren Wallis with Bear Crop Science. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Let's join Kyle and Dr. Daugherty at the Commodity Classic in New Orleans and learn about Tyson Foods' Sustainable Food Program.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer from New Orleans. I have the opportunity to visit with Dr. Daugherty. She is with Tyson Foods. Christine, tell me what you do with Tyson.
I head up our sustainable food production program. That program encompasses three facets. One, all of our animal well-being efforts across our four proteins: beef, chicken, pork, and turkey. We also handle the sustainability efforts across the company. That's our water management, greenhouse gas, energy. And then the third component is innovation. How do we look to new processes and procedures to help us become better in those two facets of animal well-being and sustainability?
I had the opportunity to hear you on a panel just a few minutes ago and talk about the confusion, if you will, among the consumer on labeling issues and just the clutter or noise in the industry. I heard you say that people need to find a trusted source. How would a consumer find a trusted source in their food that can address all the issues that might come up?
I don't know that there would be a single source for all of the questions they may have, but some of the trusted sources that they may want to find is an extension agent or a university. Someone who understands agriculture can help them decipher some of that information. A lot of times those agencies or entities will have great resources on their websites as well. We have a number of resources on our website that they can go to look how is the animal raised, what are some of the claims, and then the USDA also does a good job of explaining some of this things such as natural, organic, because as you heard from the panel, there are standards that need to be met before you can label especially meat products with these claims.
I guess one point that I heard brought out in there too, probably the best place to study your food isn't necessarily the labeling at the supermarket. You should probably study before that.
Yeah, I think, however, you should really pick up a package, especially a meat package. Look on the front and look on the back. There's a lot of things that may be on the back of the package that will give you information, but really be an informed consumer. And if you're not sure, go to that website, go to that company who is producing that item and look to see what they say about it. They need to be truthful. We're truthful in our labeling, and we disclose all the information there.
We're visiting with Christine Daugherty. She is with Tyson Foods. This is Kyle Bauer reporting from New Orleans.
Folks, stay with us after the break. Kyle will be back with Carolyn O'Neil, registered dietitian, cookbook author, and food and travel journalist.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Ag AM in Kansas, brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
We're back. Let's join Kyle and Carolyn as they discuss her perspective on the food industry.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer. I have Carolyn O'Neil with me. We are currently in New Orleans. She has an interesting perspective when it comes to the food industry in that she's worked with CNN, has been a reporter, is a reporter for major news companies, has to report on food every day. Carolyn, how do you do that and remain credible and sort through mistruths?
Well, I do believe that I am credible. I currently report for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, which is a major news daily. I have a weekly column that I'm responsible for. And believe you me, if you have to write something every week, it comes up pretty fast. And you think, what am I going to write about this week? You asked about credibility. I am credible only in that I feel like I have the knowledge to, as a registered dietitian with a master's degree in nutrition and over 20 years of experience of witnessing the roller coaster, if you will, of research on food, nutrition, agriculture, and all the trends. I just think that's not even something I think about because I care about finding the best information and then finding the best ways to translate it. Okay, so if credibility comes from people trusting the way you translate the science because you understand it first and foremost, so you can put it into a common language, I think that is the answer. But you know what? Beyond credibility, I think today as journalists, we worry about relatability. Are you really connecting with folks and what they're really concerned about, what they're afraid of, what they'd like to splurge on, what they're curious about. And of course, that's going to morph from if it's a mom with little kids to maybe a senior adult.
There are legitimate concerns on health issues, whether it be gluten-free, or many other things, allergies, but it appears that a lot of people take advantage of that on marketing and even marketing of research to get playtime in the news.
Well, let's address what's happening in the food marketplace, first of all. And, when you go to the supermarket, you see so many things that are on a package, whether it says gluten-free and maybe it's a product that never contain gluten to begin with. I'll use a silly example, but it's a true one. Water. I actually saw gluten-free water recently, and I thought, well, that is ridiculous. But then I thought, okay, let's say if you're celiac and you really do have to avoid it. Their tagline was, because you can never be too sure. Now, with allergies, I think it's also important, too. They may say on a milk product, gluten-free. Well, there's no gluten in milk, but maybe it was from a facility that could potentially have also run some other products that happen to have gluten in there because of the wheat or whatever was there. So some of it, you're like, is this like a water is wet? Or is it just something to reassure consumers, hey, we've done the worrying for you? You know what I mean? And I think there's value to that. But then some of the marketing claims, I think they're just trying to jump on a health halo. Now with Greek yogurt, and and it's a snack cake, but they're trying to make the snack cake seem more healthy by saying, oh, we had a Greek yogurt in the recipe.
We're visiting with Carolyn O'Neil. This is Kyle Bauer reporting from New Orleans.
Thanks, Kyle. Next up is this week's Kansas Soybean Update.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Carrie Ebert with Kansas State University joins us. And Carrie, the planters are rolling it this time. And, well, it's probably a pretty good time to remind farmers about being safe during fall planting season.
Yeah, it sure is. We tend to focus our ag safety messages on the harvest season, which is the busiest season of the year. But spring is just about as dangerous, especially for those who are just crop farming. We've had this winter off, and so it's kind of getting back into the swing of things and pulling out equipment that we maybe haven't used for a few months. So there's a whole lot of startup safety issues that we all need to be thinking about when we start heading out to the fields to till and then to plant. Make sure your tractor is in good working order. Make sure the equipment is in good working order. And that means clean and lubricated. And especially now, we start to see more and more farm equipment on the roads. And so roadway safety becomes very important, not just from the perspective of the farmer, but also, if there are some listening to this program who are non-farmers, we all need to share the road. And so everyone needs to be on alert that now we start. But from the farmer perspective, make sure that all the lighting and marking on your tractor and your equipment is in place, that those slow-moving vehicle emblems, if in fact you have, that small of equipment that goes very slow on the highway, but certainly equipment that's loaded down would probably benefit from that SMV. But there are also lights and reflectors. Make sure those are all clean and that they're in good working order, and that we do as much as we can from the ag side to help other motorists be able to see us. The other part of farm safety that we really need to think about and we don't focus on as much as probably we should is operator health and safety. It takes a certain amount of physical strength and mental acumen because everything starts, we have to be focused on what we're doing. And so each of us needs to do our part to make sure that we're ready physically and emotionally to handle the stress that farming season brings with us. And then also to be aware that falls are still the leading cause of ag injuries.
All right, Carrie, we appreciate all the information on that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That is Carrie Ebert with Kansas State University. She joins us on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. After the break, we'll catch up with Kyle and Sara Wyant, president of AgriPulse Communications Incorporated.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Thanks for staying with us. Next, Sara updates us on the status of the Vermont labeling law and GMO issues.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer from New Orleans. Have the opportunity to visit with Sara Wyant. She is the editor of AgriPulse, which is a daily informative newsletter for anybody involved in agriculture?
It's actually open to everybody, Kyle. It's an early morning product we call Daybreak. It's an early morning news scan we call Daily Harvest. And then we have a subscription-only newsletter that is published every Wednesday. And in addition to all that, we put content on our website, agripulse.com, throughout the day.
Well, the perspective that you bring, though, is you see all sides of the issue, left and right, Democrat, Republican, urban, rural. Give us some perspective on what you see from the Washington, D.C. side on food and ag issues.
Well, Kyle, I think that for your listeners, it's very important to understand that there was a big victory in the Senate Ag Committee. Senator Pat Roberts, who, as you know, chairs that committee, was able to advance a bill that would basically stop Vermont's labeling law for food products containing GMOs. And nobody thought he would really be able to get it done in the Senate. He got a bipartisan vote, and he's advanced it out of committee. Where it goes from there still remains to be seen. But for the most part, he was able to get some Democrats on board, and he got promises from the ranking minority member, Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, that she was willing to work on a compromise bill. And so the indications are there that there might be enough Democrats in the Senate to actually move it all the way through. Again, it's a little premature to say how it's going to play out because there are a lot of folks opposing this sort of effort. But the food companies are adamant that if we don't get this done, that it could lead to a state-by-state patchwork of labeling laws that would really make it problematic for the food industry to be able to package and label anything, and it would raise costs for consumers. And that's kind of the bottom line, I know, for Senator Roberts as well, that as we look at trying to, as he says, feed a growing, hungry world, that we don't try to jack up costs for those who could least afford it.
You know, let's just stick with the GMO issue because it's as broad and as many misconceptions as any other food in industry. As you talk to urban legislators and lobbyists, what do you think the misconceptions, perceptions, and where the misinformation is coming from?
Well, unfortunately, activist groups have turned just the acronym GMO, which stands for genetically modified organisms, into a dirty word, when in fact there is no research that shows that it is any less safe or less nutritionally dense than any other product, even compared to organic. So there's absolutely no science that shows that there should be a problem, and it's just really a public perception. So I think it behooves all of your farmers and ranchers to have these conversations in their churches, in their Kiwanis clubs, wherever they go, to try to let people understand that there's room for all different kinds of production in American agriculture, but let's not be pointing fingers and making one seem bad and another seem good, when in fact all different types of production can provide healthy food for consumers.
We're visiting with Sara Wyant. She is the editor of AgriPulse, mainly from Washington, D.C. This is Kyle Bauer reporting.
Thanks, Kyle. Folks, come back after the break for this week's Kansas Farm Bureau Legislative Update.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and this week's Kansas Farm Bureau Legislative Update.
The Kansas Farm Food Connection Group was able to host a panel discussion and farmland movie showing on April 14th with the Kansas Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics workshop. It was a great event, and we were able to connect with dietitians who really are looking for more information about food and farming and are really interested in the science aspect of that. Our panelists include Debbie Lyons Blythe, who's a rancher in the Flint Hills, Scotty Thelman, who's an organic and conventional crop grower around Lawrence, Dr. Dan Thompson from K-State, and then Dr. Tom Clemente, who is from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and is a GMO researcher. It's interesting to talk to the dietitians because they get a lot of the same questions that farmers do, and so it's nice that they want to find out what the answers are and find ways to share the real information about food and farming.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Farm Bureau Legislative Update. After these words from our sponsors, we'll be back with Kyle and Darren Wallis with Bayer Crop Science.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
We're back as Kyle and Darren discuss research showing farmers are the most trusted source of information for consumers about food product safety.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer from New Orleans visiting with Darren Wallis. He is with Bayer Crop Science. Darren is in the communications division, and as we listen to people speak today, Darren, we find that the consumer believes the farmer as a credible source or one of the more credible sources. Would you run down some of those percentages of what they're thinking who are credible?
Sure thing. Well, as a farm kid myself, I take great pride in the fact that people believe in farmers and that they have their best interests at mind. Based on some consumer research that we've seen, 30% of consumers in this survey feel very strongly about growers and that they provide the best source of information on their food. What that means to me, though, is that there's 70% of other consumers that either haven't formed an opinion or that there's an opportunity to really engage in the dialogue. But growers should feel really good that they are the most trusted voice ahead of doctors, nutritionists, certainly large companies and NGOs. But it still means there's work to do in telling the story of modern agriculture and what goes on the farm.
So as a farmer, how do I continue to raise that 30% number to even higher levels and not let it deteriorate?
Well, first of all, we know that growers have a lot going on. They've got a business to run, and they're certainly working actively every day. But increasingly, we know that engaging with the public is just as important as making seed decisions or chemical decisions on their farm. So what that means is they should engage in big and small ways, be that through social media. Certainly gives a lot of opportunity to reach people around the world and around the country. But they can also choose to engage in their own communities, be that in church settings, PTA, school settings, or if they're invited to speak on what they do. Agriculture needs to throw open the farm gate and the barn doors across the spectrum and really welcome people in to understand what's going on their fields and in their farms. And I think that's a critical conversation for the 2% of people that produce food, for the other 98% to continue that education drumbeat.
So we need to be prepared with that time when someone at our local Rotary Club or in our church or at the school asks us that question about antibiotics in meat or genetically modified, and you go, oh my, can I really help myself with that? But you really do know the answer, and if you think about it just a bit, you can have that elevator speech, if you will, ready to help that consumer.
Absolutely. I think what's most important is really listening to people and their questions first and really understanding where they come from. So if people are asking questions about genetic modification or the use of pesticides or insecticides, really understanding and asking more questions first, and then perhaps responding, not so much with facts and statistics, but, well, here's how I think about it on my farm, or here's why I make the choices that I do, and really acknowledging what we know today, which is that as a grower, there's no one more interested in the stewardship and the longevity of my land than me. And they come with such an authenticity and such a pureness of spirit and heart that I'm positive that when growers engage, that they will be pleased with the new conversations that they have.
We're visiting with Darren Wallis. He is with Bear Crop Science. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.